Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Annie Levan with PROJILITY. We'll be focused on the topic of delivering successful project portfolio management with Microsoft Teams, Project, and Power BI. At PROJILITY, we've been implementing Microsoft project and portfolio management solutions for over 17 years for large enterprises. Everything from engineering, construction, IT, and new product development. PMOs and CIOs typically come to us when they can't easily explain what's going on across all their projects. They don't know what resources are working on what work, and they have a hard time getting consistent reports, metrics, and dashboards to make project-based decisions. Here is today's agenda. We'll start with an overview of the challenges organizations face around project, portfolio, and work management, and then move into providing you with an overview of how Microsoft solutions can be deployed to support this need. Rob Hirschman, one of the partners at PROJILITY, will lead the discussion, including an overview and demonstration of the different Microsoft options. Towards the end, we'll go through providing you with guidance as to how you can select the right solution for you, as well as deliver good practices to help you move down the road to implementation. If you have questions as we work through the presentation, please add them to the questions and answers manager. It looks like the chat bubble at the top of your team screen. Well, let's get started. Introducing Rob, who will drive the presentation. Rob, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Annie, and thanks everybody for joining us today. We've gotten a lot of requests for how folks can successfully use Microsoft Project, Microsoft Teams, and Power BI together to really improve project and portfolio management, which is what we're focused on today. And let's talk a little bit and start with what the overall vision Microsoft has is for project management and the project management tools, which influences which tool you'll use. You know, Microsoft has really moved from a provider of just desktop tools to desktop and server-based to cloud-based. But now really, if you read the mission here, it's all about empowering organizations to achieve improved results that align their investments with their projects and their resources. They're very focused on agility, flexibility, and collaboration, and supporting different work styles throughout organizations, using intuitive tools that are consistent and all within the Microsoft Cloud Office 365 platform. If you think about that vision, it's a pretty big vision, and that means Microsoft is trying to address new audiences with some of the technologies they are building today. And they have released technologies around Microsoft Project over the last 3 or 4 years that focus on different markets. And we're going to talk about that and show that in our overview and demonstration today. So let's talk about the tie-in with Teams and Power BI. When we look at modern work management, and Microsoft has done a lot of research into this, they tend to look at what the problem is, what are some of the solutions, and what are the outcomes. One of the top ones is work is typically happening everywhere all the time, but people are losing track of that information. So in order to get the big picture, all of your work, your projects, your tasks, your portfolios, and resources should really be centralized into a central collaboration platform, even though people are going to use different components of those tools to help drive better decision making. Two of the real focuses of the Microsoft Project team are the next two, around versatility and an intuitive user interface. Around versatility, teams often choose the tools they want to use and work every day. And with the advent of internet-based, web-based project management tools, people can swipe a credit card, start using a tool, they can collaborate and share that information without having IT behind them. One of the risks behind that is that data, organizational data, will sit outside your enterprise. So what Microsoft has done is they brought together some best-in-class project management tools to help centralize control of this, give people flexibility around the project management platform, even when they're not expert project managers, so people can get more work done and really in the solution area to collaborate on projects using familiar methodologies and tools. And finally, in the intuitive line item, really addressing a new market that's emerged over the last 5 or 6 years. And that's really addressing the business or the quote unquote casual project manager market, which is people that don't have project management in their title, but have to often fall back and manage projects anyway. These may be folks outside of IT, maybe in operations or finance or business development. They need visual work management tools and project management tools to do their jobs. The solution is really to start fast with simple tools and interfaces that are modern, that are web-based, that feel a lot like tools people use today to deliver quicker and give people the right tools for the job. So it does not mean the legacy project management tools have gone away. It just means Microsoft has added a whole suite of tools specifically to address this marketplace. And so from there, we start looking at what are some of these trends around project and work management. And project and work management kind of blend together now as work is related to projects, and often projects are related to work. And this is where we start seeing the concept of tasks being everywhere, whether it's in your personal life, professional life and industry, whether you're a frontline worker or someone maybe working in a factory or on a shop floor, even in a hospital. Information workers are asking for more tools to manage their tasks and work. 44% of the respondents of a survey said that they were requesting more tools to do their jobs more easily. 33% of the workers say the simple biggest thing that would help them do more is putting better process in place. And a good percentage of those workers cite not being able to prioritize correctly as one of the two reasons projects don't get done or they get delayed. Start looking at some of the other statistics. 91% of the people requesting tools say they really want more modern technologies. They don't want legacy tools that were built 10 or 15 years ago. And only 10% of this market has some kind of a project management tool, but have project management tools on a PC without IT getting approval. So people are actually going out and buying tools more and more without talking to IT, which is obviously a risk, but it's also an opportunity to bring that information into the organization, the enterprise. And there have been lots of other studies where we start to see that respondents are not using any work management tool. They're using email and Excel spreadsheets. Centralizing and collaborative tools will really help them do their jobs better. A good deal of those respondents say they're so swamped with day-to-day work, they don't have time to actually come up with creative solutions. Centralized project management tools can help with that. People feel burnt out a lot, as you can see as we go farther to the right, and say ease of access to the right information can make not only their lives easier, but actually better engage and deliver on projects, tasks, and work they have. So all the data is pointing to the really providing users with best-in-class tools that are very easy and very intuitive. But what tools do project managers use today? Most people would assume most project managers are using a formal project management tool, and that is not a good assumption. People use Microsoft Project, they'll use Project Online, use other project management tools. A lot of them use Excel. A lot of them use SharePoint and SharePoint lists. A lot of people use Outlook and email. Some people are building their project management structure into teams. Maybe they have spreadsheets or an agile tool like an Azure DevOps or a Jira or a version 1. There are different technologies out there that people are using, and often they're choosing the right tool for the job based off where they sit in the organization. The organization isn't often providing with all the tools they need to do their jobs. So this provides an opportunity, and there really becomes a gap between what people need and what they have today from a tool perspective. So we start talking about how is this gap being bridged? Well, the first step is that we can assume a lot of us are involved in project management as team members. Maybe we're initiating projects, maybe we're on the business side and we have to manage initiatives as projects, but a lot of us aren't trained to be formal project managers. Everybody understands the importance of collaboration, how critical it is. But the reality is in our day-to-day lives, there's a lot more chaos than collaboration. And this information and the work is happening everywhere we go. We all want to manage the way we work. We think we know the best way to do our jobs. And a lot of times the tools that we're provided don't give us the best way to do our jobs. We need more modern tools that adapt to how we work versus the other way around. So because of the challenges at the top, people are choosing tools that drive them to success. And what this is leading to is we want to use our data. We want to aggregate data about projects, resources, and work. But a lot of times this is very messy, especially when you have multiple platforms and multiple tools in place. People end up doing Excel-based reporting or PowerPoint. And finally, at the end of the day, we all need to make better decisions, whether it's on our tasks and our projects, whether it's across our portfolio. Nobody really has the big picture. It's very difficult to get an enterprise-wide picture. So where does Microsoft come in? Well, Microsoft provides a platform, a framework, and the cloud to support this. And there's really 4 core components of the overall Microsoft strategy around this. The first of those starts on the top left with Microsoft Dynamics 365. And a lot of organizations are using this kind of as their back-end finance, human resources, CRM, sales, and marketing engine. It can also be extended out to support different project-related processes as it relates to things like costs and billings. On the Power Platform, this has emerged over the last 3 years as really a great way to enable business processes and do reporting. We have Power Automate to automate processes and workflows. We have Power Apps to actually enable access to information and applications to capture data people need. And then obviously Power BI, which has become the leader really in the business analytics self-service space for reporting and dashboards. That is a tool we can use to do reporting across these different platforms. In the Microsoft 365 world, we have Microsoft Planner, which most folks are familiar with, a visual, intuitive task management tool. Then we have the Project Suite, which is made up of several different technologies and tools, which we'll point out as we're going through our overview and demonstration, which is really our structured project management platform, both for the casual project manager, as well as the more advanced project portfolio and PMO. And finally, we have Microsoft Teams, which has become the enterprise collaboration platform over the last 2.5 or 3 years. And that becomes a platform we want to deliver information through because we're spending a good part of our day in that, especially those of us that work remotely. And finally, the fourth leg on the stool for Microsoft Project has to do with partners. Microsoft relies on a vast array of ecosystem partners like PROJILITY that provide applications, that provide expertise, and that provide integration that can help you put these pieces together and make sense of it all. And if we start to piece this together, we can start to choose the right components that are right for us. So really starting with this, we want to really drive into Microsoft Teams, which is really what this webinar is all about. Teams has really become the hub for teamwork across an enterprise and an organization. As you see on the left, it includes chat, it includes meeting, it includes calling, it includes file management and apps and workflows. As we kind of walk through this, everybody knows about the online meeting capability. We've all learned that since the pandemic. Everybody knows about the ability to actually call people, voice over IP. Everybody knows mainly about the task and the file management capabilities to store all of your documents and files, which is in the back end based in a SharePoint foundation, and then to deploy different applications and workflows as you need them. But in a project management context, what does this mean? So we add another bullet at the bottom for project information. What can this look like? Well, in a project management world, in Teams, we want to start looking at projects. We want to start looking at portfolios. We want to start looking at resources, and we want to start looking at other information about our projects, like issues and risks, or storing all of our project documents in a central repository, or driving dashboards and reports that drive consistency through a Teams interface with all of our data in a structured project management application, even to the point where we're deploying enterprise dashboards across a portfolio for our senior directors and managers, and pulling in information from our development teams. Maybe they're using Azure DevOps or a tool like Azure DevOps, like Jira. You can bring all this information together and use Teams as your unified user interface. So this is really what we're moving to, is using the Teams foundation and project and some of the project related components behind it to do better project portfolio and resource management, PPM. So when we start looking at this, start to imagine a better world around project management where we can integrate our project-focused business processes and line of business applications we have. We can start to automate some of our routine tasks. We can access partner applications, so we can buy versus build or build versus buy, depending on what we want to do. We can communicate and collaborate more effectively, and all in one place for all of your projects. So you may be storing information, or people may be using Project for the Web or Project Online or Jira or Azure DevOps, but you can bring it all together using the Teams platform and the Power Platform as well. That's really what we're going to be focused on here. So in a project management context, we tend to think about it, what is the project portfolio management lifecycle? And from a PPM perspective, we have different lifecycle phases, and this can vary in your organization, but there's some basic lifecycle of we're going through a creation phase, where we're going through demand management and demand control and getting requests for new projects. We're going through formal portfolio selection, where we're actually going through and determining what projects we're going to do, what are our proper investments that give us the best business value. We want to do some capacity planning as we get into planning and resource management. We may want to do financial planning and financial management. Perhaps time reporting is important from a delivery perspective to determine who's working on what and do time accounting. Everybody has some kind of a need for project and portfolio-based reporting. We want to do our detailed project management and project scheduling, team collaboration, and program management. And it all may seem pretty heavy. There's a lot here, and really picking what processes are important to you, building those, deploying those, Microsoft platform, and enabling Teams access to that information can drive ease of use and accountability. Remember, most people want better tools, but they're afraid of new tools because they think they're going to be more difficult. So if you deliver them in an interface and a tool like Teams where people are familiar and comfortable with, then it makes people's lives easier. So what we're going to do next is give you a demonstration of what this looks like in a real world setting. And we tend to think about it from a maturity perspective. You've got a point where you want to crawl, and we've got different processes and technology behind it. So from a crawl perspective, what are we looking for? Well, we just want to get basic work planning and scheduling. We want to do some basic task tracking. We want to have documents and document tracking. We want to have project metadata, and we want to actually do some reporting. And for that demonstration, we're going to be focused on Teams as the front end, with project behind it, SharePoint Online for our documents, OneNote for any of the collaboration on non-structured content, Power BI for reports, and maybe a little bit of just a sprinkling of Power Apps in there to capture project metadata and project information. So we're going to hop into this demo next, then we're going to go into walk and run. So let's hop over into our environment. We are in Microsoft Teams now, and I'm just going to pull up a project we have in Teams that is aligned with kind of that crawl phase. So I'm going to pull up a marketing project. Okay. And you'll see here we get into the marketing campaign planning project. We're in Teams. First thing we're going to see when we go to the marketing campaign project is we're going to be using Microsoft's Project for the Web, which is Microsoft's web-based intuitive project scheduling tool, really designed for the business or casual project manager. This is where the PM or the business person building a project can go and start to add tasks and activities. New phase of work, task 1, task 2, task 3. And they can start adding information about this. They can say, well, who's going to do this task? I've got Sunny working on task 1, I've got Todd working on task 2, and I've got Todd working on task 3. I can start saying, how long is it going to take? Well, this should take me 3 hours, 5 days, 4 days of work. And then we can start looking at the different relationships between the tasks and activities. What does it depend on? 12, 13, maybe 21. Okay, we can create relationships very quickly and easily, and then we can make these tasks subtasks of our primary task here, our top level task. So we're using, again, Project for the Web to build a web-based schedule, and now we're adding tasks and activities to that. Okay? Very quick, very easy, very intuitive, no need for the project desktop client, and then we can add other information to tasks. You can see if I go to my SWOT analysis, if I just click on the task here, you can see I've got a start and finish, I've got some notes, I also have coding if I wanted to put indicators on it. I can look at buckets, so I can add tasks to buckets, which we're going to get into next. Add a priority. One of the nice things Microsoft recently added is the ability to add a checklist item. Make sure Jim approves. So we can have checklists just like we had in Microsoft Planner. They got a lot of feedback that people love that functionality in Planner. Now it's available in Project. We can track the effort. We can look at the dependencies. We can also add attachments that are stored in the SharePoint library behind each project. So we're building our projects, but it's not just about the list of activities. We can actually visualize this for the team. You can go to the board tab that's built in here, and this is through the project app using Project for the Web. And now we can see any tasks that are next up or in progress or done. We can create different buckets if we want to. We can group by who the tasks are assigned to. So as we go through our status and our stand-up, we can say, hey, Sarah, how are we doing on the marketing strategy? She may say, good news, I just completed it. It's done. And we mark off that task as completed, and it goes into that bucket now. Or we can go and look at by finish date or priority. Show me all the tasks that are low, medium, high. Or finally, we can put them into sprints if we're following an agile framework. So we have the ability to visualize tasks and activities. Again, we're at a crawl stage. We just want to capture all the tasks and keep them up to date. And this aligns with a lot of the modern project management tools you may see out there today. And finally, Microsoft provides a timeline view. This is our traditional Gantt view, where we can go in and update the Gantt in live and real time. We can see those tasks we've just added. We can create relationships and say, well, this task drives this task here. Or I think this activity is now going to take another week. I can drag it out, and I can even go in and status the task right from here. So you can see I can have my grid, my board, my timeline, but there's other information someone managing this project would typically need. There's charts. And now we can see, maybe from a status perspective, how many tasks do I have that are active or completed or late today? Or in a bucket perspective, how many tasks do I have that are in progress for director review or next up? And finally, I can look at the effort by person. If I'm assigning people to tasks, hey, Sunny's got a lot of work. Looks like the administrator has a little. How much is late versus completed? It's going to give us some color coding. And now I can see, show me the completed work, or just show me the people with late work or in progress activities. Very interactive, very intuitive. And finally, there is a People tab now. The People tab lets us see for each resource what's not started, what's next up, and what's in progress today. And then these resources could come in, working with the project lead, update the status, again, say this is 50% done, and then move tasks to different stages here. Okay. Very good, very visual, intuitive. So that's the schedule part of it from a crawl perspective. We also want to be able to capture project-related information, such as notes from status meetings. Well, the good news is this comes integrated with OneNote. So for every project we can have a OneNote notebook, and we're capturing all the status meeting minutes and comments. Again, fully integrated with Microsoft Teams. All your data is in one place. For an end user, they go to one place in Microsoft Teams, the project, marketing campaign planning, and everything is there. Or we can store our documents here. In addition to that, so now we've got our invoices, our deliverables, our design drawings, maybe from a marketing or an operations group. We can keep them all in one place. It's centrally stored in the SharePoint UI behind the scenes. It's all in SharePoint integrated with Teams. Finally, if we wanted to do some kind of reporting, Power BI. And at this point, when we're doing our crawl, we just want to kind of focus on the work. We can start looking at, how much work is out there and how much work does each person have. So, hey, Brian, let's take a look at all the tasks you have. It looks like this closeout task on this project is running late. When is that going to be updated versus Josh? Josh has a lot of tasks versus Sarah. And then I can just drill down. Hey, just show me Sarah's tasks on the infrastructure project or just the marketing project we were just looking at. And then each of these can have a link directly back to the specific activity. So from a crawl perspective, we want to focus on the work, maybe an overview of all the work we have out there, and show me everything that's in a specific project. Go down here to maybe one of these projects, an infrastructure plan, and what are the tasks and why are they late? Managers, directors could go into this or even go in and say what's next up or what's administrative. So we can get reports out on projects and even look at a project timeline. For the infrastructure project, what is the visual timeline? I don't have to be an expert in Microsoft Project to get this information. This is leveraging Power BI, Project for the Web, Microsoft Teams together, using some other tools that are built in as well, SharePoint Online, as well as OneNote. And finally, if you wanted to capture more project metadata or information, this is where we could use a Power App. I said a sprinkling of Power Apps. We can have a Power App that actually is deployed specifically for this environment. And now we can see all the information about the project here. What type of a project is it? Is it part of a program? What's the state of it? What's the stage of it? We can capture all this metadata and information. We can even develop a business case behind the project. All the stuff that's beyond the schedule. How much are we spending on the budget on the project? And look at things like the risks or the issues or the changes, capture them all in one repository. Again, this is leveraging the Power App that comes with Project for the Web on the back end and building that out into an application. So this kind of gets us through that crawl phase of scheduling, task tracking, documents, reporting, and metadata. What if we're a little more mature than that? We're at a phase where we want to walk. We want to do some basic project intake and approvals. We want to do some resource capacity management. Maybe we want to do some time and task management in the tool as well, issue and risk management, and start looking at things in terms of not just projects, but portfolios, and also look at things like agile tasks. What tools are we going to use? Well, Teams, Project for the Web, Project Online potentially, depending on what direction you're headed, SharePoint Online, again, Power Apps to capture information, OneNote for our note collection, Planner to do some task management, as well as Power BI for reporting. Let's hop over into that scenario. So now we're going to get into this more advanced walking. Go up here, I'm going to select a project, health assessment. Let's get into our project here. You're going to see we have a little more complete information here. For instance, we're going to go to the schedule. Now we have more of a formal work breakdown structure that maybe a project manager is building out in the Microsoft Project Professional desktop client, and they want to share this information with stakeholders. Maybe they've got more than 50 or 100 tasks. They've got a more complex project with milestones, dependencies, but also critical path and baselines. And this is where they're going to be able to view that information and update it if they do have the capability to do so. Same scenario around project documents, but now maybe we're templatizing. We've got different document libraries for waterfall and agile projects or infrastructure and app dev. We can templatize our document libraries and the different deliverable types so that people can quickly and easily get in and update that information. This would use the SharePoint component. We're tracking issues. So we may be tracking issues or problems on our projects like HIPAA compliance or risks. Maybe we have a whole series of risks we're capturing on the project. Again, that's all captured within the tool, within the project management application. We're viewing it and updating it all through Teams. If we have a new risk to log, we can come into a form and log it here. You see it says SharePoint. Again, SharePoint is the underlying technology behind this. A really good use case for Planner in a project management context is action item management. And let's say you come out of a status meeting and there are some very defined meeting actions. For instance, we say, hey, we've got to send out the financials deck to the CFO for approval. What we could do is actually use the action items or tasks for Teams and Planner and go in and create those action items right here, assign them to people, and then when they get updated, we could actually have this set of action items approved and crossed through or completed. We may have other actions, sending the charter for review, or maybe create administrative actions. We create these different visual buckets, assign them to different people. These are actions that have to happen. They're not at a task or activity level in a project. They're below that. They're things day to day that are happening or action items. Really good use case for this. We're using that OneNote notebook, just like we did in the crawl, to capture status meeting minutes, kind of the unstructured content. Maybe we have more formal deliverable management. Well, again, we can capture the formal deliverables on a project, have deliverable due dates, start and finish dates. Then we can track the progress of those deliverables and allow management to come in and view those. We may be in a walk stage where we're actually starting to capture project financials. So we have different apps we can leverage for this. We can leverage kind of what's out of the box with project, or we can start to build apps that have a more visual depiction of our financials and time phasing those financials over time from a budget, from an actual and a forecast perspective. Additionally, in a walk, we may want to do project status reports and start doing portfolio status reports as well. So this is where we can come in and we can have an automated status report for this particular health assessment report project. This is in Power BI. You see this is a template report we have that gives us all the information on a project as of a certain date and time. Type of project, the start and finish, the baseline finish, when the last change was applied to this. And I can see no one's made a change to this project in a little over a month. That's kind of troublesome. Is it part of a larger program? The description of the project, and then we can set up these health indicators for project overall health, trend, budget, schedule, and resources. We can also capture context, accomplishments, and goals. This is all coming from the underlying project management application. And finally, key tasks and milestones. We don't want to know everything. We just want to know the key tasks or the milestones that are going to drive the schedule forward. You can also see in a status report, we have different tabs. Maybe we want to look at a task report. As we're working with the team on the status meeting, we can pull this up right in Teams and run through, hey, what are the tasks finishing late? What are the tasks that are finishing this week? What are finishing next week and completed? The system will automatically generate these reports based off the underlying data and allow you to drill into each of the tasks or activities. Really nice reports. Sometimes we want to know who's on the project team and how much time are they spending on the specific activities. And this is where we can start looking at, do I have certain roles like engineers? Do I have a manufacturing engineer? Who's the developer? How much time is the developer spending on this versus the testers? Finally, we're going to get reports on issues and risks. Instead of looking at the list, we can visualize this in a very intuitive way. Now we can look at this and say, well, it looks like this particular project has 9 or 10, 12 risks. What we can do is we can actually hone in on just the highest probability risks. High impact, high probability, high cost, something we want to proactively address versus going down through the medium and then the low impact and low probability risks. By capturing them in your project management system, we can score them all in one place. And then we have this risk matrix on the right. We can visualize this and say, hey, where does that high risk sit? Looks like it's upper right-hand quadrant, high impact, high probability. We probably want to get on that one immediately. And finally, we can go through things like other information. We talked about the project financials. We can even go through a timeline. But if we're working maybe on a more advanced project, we may have other information we want to track. Maybe we have changes. We want to track change control. We want to have a change control log. Again, this is in more of the walk phase where we track and manage changes. We can edit them right here. We can assign them to different people, associate them with a WBS item, actually associate documents with them as well. We can even do our budget tracking. We may have, in this case, other information we're tracking, the team notebook and action items as well. So that's at a walk phase. We're actually trying to really get to the next step and track more details and metadata and start to look more broadly across the portfolio. Okay. When we go from walk to run, that's where we're starting to do things like capacity management. We're starting to look at things like lifecycle and workflow management around different specific processes in our PMO, our project management. We're looking at more enterprise class scheduling. We're looking at medium to large size schedules with interdependencies. We're starting to think about things in terms of programs. How are we doing program management and program controls? Integrating our agile data and processes into the tool, as well as our financials and getting more discrete with financials, whether it's coming from a financial system or our project management system, and starting to think more strategically around our portfolios. Technologies we're leveraging here, see a lot of the same. We're using Teams, we're using project at an enterprise level, we're using SharePoint Online, we're starting to integrate DevOps tools like Azure DevOps, looking at Power BI or maybe putting a data warehouse in place to house data from not only our project management system, but maybe use it for integrating with tools like SAP or PeopleSoft or our Dynamics system. So we really want to look at extending this out into a best-in-class enterprise solution that gets us really running on top of the crawling and walking we're already doing. So what would this look like? Just helping you envision this a little bit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a PMO. I'm in Teams again. I'm going to our PMO team and channel. And at PMO level, we're starting to look more holistically at the entire portfolio. Okay. What we can see here, let's go to more of a full screen, is we see a timeline, but we can see different portfolios. Now we've got maybe an IT portfolio, a maintenance portfolio, a customer service portfolio, and maybe a customer service portfolio. But within each of those portfolios, we have different life cycle stages: create, select, plan, manage. And then we've got projects in each of those life cycle stages that are different things are happening on each project. We can start looking at this as more of a portfolio and starting to look at start and finish dates, trending, changes to the portfolio, changes to the underlying projects, looking at it as more of an enterprise level. We're also starting to consider resources. And this is where we can start looking at our resource center and start looking at things like capacity and demand management. So right from here, I'm going to go into my capacity management. And now I'm looking at my enterprise resources, maybe across my IT group. I'm starting to say, do I have certain periods like the month of July and August where I'm getting close to my capacity, other ones like September, October, November where I'm below it, and even pivot and say, well, here's my actual workload. Here's my workload with all the proposed work that I haven't committed to yet as well in purple. And I can pivot back and forth between the two and start doing resource planning and resource capacity management in the tool as well. This is, again, using project at an enterprise level and allows you to do resource planning and resource utilization. A lot of organizations start doing idea management, ideation in the tool. Well, what if we wanted to capture new ideas? We can do that either in SharePoint or project. We can come in and put in a new idea for a new potential project, capture the costs, the benefits, the criticality, maybe the area of the organization it is impacting, whether it's IT, procurement, automation. Is it part of a product? What type of an idea is it? And submit that into an idea queue that then can be rated, scored, and upgraded into potential projects, and then converted over into projects in your project management system. So you could actually have an ideas tab here too, or request new projects. But importantly, at a PMO or portfolio level, we're going to start thinking more strategically. We've got a portfolio of projects and potential projects going on. We can come in and use some of the portfolio analysis tools here. And currently we have a $12 million portfolio. We're getting 76% value. We've got all these projects here we decided not to do. They're unselected. But what if I went in and said, I got another $2 million. Now I have a $14 million portfolio. If I run that scenario, what projects can I potentially do? And now it's actually going to recommend projects with the extra budget that I can do and give you a reason why, the ones that are moved in. So now I can get about 80% value. I can do the payroll project and the software development plan with the additional budget. It allows me to quickly and easily run scenarios and models, both on projects and people, and even scatter chart this out into a visual or a graphic if I wanted to. So you have the ability to do this portfolio modeling if you want to in the tool. And portfolio reporting. This is what a lot of organizations have been looking for. Maybe I want a strategic portfolio dashboard that is going to help me look at projects by initiative, to start saying, okay, show me all the projects we have that are going to help us reduce our operating expenses or going to improve smart growth. And it's going to be pulling related projects from that portfolio, that initiative, that program into a single status report, or look at it from a program perspective as well, or say, show me the cost savings we're going to be seeing, or the revenue realization, or the cost management from the tool. We can get these kind of dashboards and reports out and even start doing portfolio reporting. This is leveraging Power BI against our entire portfolio. Now you can see, again, using Power BI, we have a dashboard of our entire portfolio in one place. This is great for a director, a manager, executive. Then I can see the different programs I have going on. Maybe I've got 17 programs. I'm focused maybe on the cloud program. Now I see a subset of that, and I can see 18% of the cloud program is green, 54% is yellow, the rest is red. Well, if I look down here, I see which projects are contributing to that, the green, the yellow, and the red, and I may want to look and drill into that, or just focus on just the ones that are red and yellow simply by clicking on this. And now I can just see the projects that are in trouble or potentially in trouble. It's a portfolio level Power BI report across our project data. We can get a program timeline and start saying, well, show me all the projects within the cloud migration and how are they progressing all in one place. Great for management. They never have to go into a project management tool. Or maybe look at some of the key tasks and milestones. Or maybe we want to report on financials across the program or specific programs, and then we can drill down into one or multiple programs and just see the spend, the monthly spend. This can be coming from your project management tool, be coming from a financial system, or a combination of both. And finally, what a lot of executives want is, show me across each of our major investments, what are the risks? What are the top risks? We can surface those. So they can say, for this transformation program, show me the risks and show me if I have any category 3. Pretty good shape right now. But for the cloud migration, show me what I've got and then focus again just on the risks for that program. And I get down to that level where I know exactly the risk that I have on that program, as well as some of the program level issues. It lets you capture and report on program issues and risks and report on those across a program and a portfolio. So you see, we've really gotten to a run stage where we're doing this. We're at a PMO level. We're doing this enterprise level governance. We're also starting to do things like Agile integration. This is the final part of this as well. A lot of organizations have adopted Agile. Not everything is a waterfall project. So let's go into DevOps here. And now we're going to get in and we want to see, okay, I've got this project going on, but there's a development aspect to it. I know the dev teams are working in Azure DevOps. Let's just log in here. Now I should be able to see what they're working on a day-to-day basis. And now I can see all the active features our development team is working on, maybe the Outlook integration. And now I can see all the details in terms of who's working on it, what's the work, what's the remaining work. All of that is in one place. Or maybe I want to look at the storyboard today. If I have an Agile methodology, again, what's active? What stories are we working on? Who's responsible for them? What's the status of those stories? Again, we're letting people work in the tools they're comfortable with. We're aggregating the data and organizing it using Microsoft Teams. Or maybe we want to have just the sprint status. Maybe we want to do really good reporting. Back to Power BI. Now we want metrics on our Agile projects that are different than metrics on our waterfall projects. Now we can start looking at things like cycle times and remaining work, backlog times for specific groups of projects or teams. Now I see my DevOps or my infrastructure team. What are they working on? How much time are they spending? What does their burn down look like? What projects do they have active today? And finally, looking at things like overall DevOps status. Again, using Azure DevOps, and we're using Power BI now. We can come in, select the project, and now we can see all the activities. Show me every active activity on this particular project. Here's all of the activities, whether it's a user story or a feature. I have all the details all coming through Microsoft Teams. It's a really, really powerful way to collect information. And finally, I want people to update their time. They're updating progress in DevOps, but I want them to be able to go into their timesheet, which is over in my project management tool, and then they can update their time all in one place as well. It's very easy to say, hey, here's my rate module. I did 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours. Again, I'm coming through Teams. I'm entering the data, a single point of data entry. So this makes people's lives a lot easier. It's fully integrated together. And then I can look at the overall PMO schedule and start looking at all this information in one place. And that really gets us through that run phase. So really the idea was to get you and show you what a basic crawl would look like, a walk would look like, a run would look like. When we start looking at flying, honestly, that's at another time. Most organizations we work with are somewhere in one of these 3 phases, some kind of a blend of crawl, walk, run. And again, we can get there with technologies here, mainly Teams, Project, SharePoint, OneNote, and Power BI, and then other additions to that in different flavors. So you've seen what the technology can do. How do you get there? What does it look like to drive deployment of this technology? Well, there's first the planning and the setup and the environment. That is, if you don't do it right, if you just go in and start planning technology and without backing up and actually doing some analysis, you waste time, you slow down the process, and things feel scattered. And in a project management world, we want to be organized. It's really about alignment and organization. So you want to get all the right ingredients working together. Those ingredients are your people, your processes, and your procedures, and making sure you have a good understanding of what each group needs in these areas, documents and files, but also the applications and the technologies that you want to use. And pulling these together and choosing the right technologies for the job, really, really important. We then, once we have our environment set up, we want to start piloting this. We want to start building projects, managing them in the tools, using tools like the modern version of Project. We're using DevOps, or we're using Planner for some components. We showed you the different elements of that you can go to build and manage your projects. As we go forward, we want to check in with our stakeholders, and this is where reporting is really, really useful. We can start to get information, doing our regular stand-ups, our weekly status meetings, depending on our methodology. We can pilot this and do data reviews and improve on the data by modifying the system, modifying the process around it, always getting feedback from our internal partners, our customers, our internal stakeholders, constant progress, monitoring this progress. And because of all the great integration with reporting tools Microsoft provides, we have roadmaps, we have dashboards, and we have reports. Microsoft Project now comes with roadmap functionality that can all be deployed through Microsoft Teams. And we've got dashboards, which we showed through Power BI, and different kinds of reports. So you can get data out that's relevant for the right audience from a project management perspective. Finally, at the end of the day, We want to share knowledge. We want to learn from our experiences on projects. We want to improve on what's going on. We want to better deliver. So really the idea is that you can manage your work with confidence, whatever the capabilities of the organization are. Understanding your data is all secure and compliant. It's all within the Office 365 platform. You have enterprise grade performance. You have the ability to provide access to data and control who sees what information, that view only or update access through security, and then secure sharing of the information through the right people through different Microsoft Office 365 groups, categories, and views. So what are some of the solution components? Just to summarize, Teams is the user interface of the future. Teams is what all this information should be delivered in moving forward. Microsoft Project is really the project management tool set or the project management engine that's going to assist with building your projects, tracking your resources, tracking your work in progress, and capturing other related information on your projects like workflows, governance, phases, methodology. SharePoint Online is the collaboration tool set that you're going to be leveraging for all of your document storage and any integrated collaboration you're going to be doing. Power BI is the centralized reporting technology that'll go across all this information to provide the right reports to the right audiences and dashboards. Some options you have are using the Power Platform and wrapping that around the project suite to build process-specific applications. We showed you that project information page or the project financials page. You could build that with Power Platform, or if you had a specific application, like I want to get requests from anybody in the enterprise to put an idea in, you could do that through a Power App. And when you decide something's a project, flow it in and make it into a project if you want. Or change requests. Maybe you have a change request form that's in a Power App. Planner, which is optional. A lot of people use it for action item management around your projects. And finally, Azure DevOps for those doing development work, where your agile teams will start collaborating, your development teams store their code, you check in and check out and versioning. You can use that in alignment with Microsoft Project and capture your work progress in DevOps, but actually your task work and your time accounting in Project. Some value adds that PROJILITY brings to the table. Number one is proper deployment and training. Really, really important in this entire life cycle. Getting the system set up based on your alignment, your requirements, and your processes. We have a couple of different add-ons that are available here. There's one called the PPM to Teams connector. Natively, Project for the Web connects into Teams, but if you wanted to connect Project Online or Microsoft PPM into Teams, we have an automated connector that automatically makes a lot of the connections you saw today, synchronizes security, and makes sure the data is secure but accessible through Teams, whether it's stored in Project or SharePoint under that. We have something called Hammerhead BI, which are the pre-built reports and dashboards you saw in those Power BI reports, or a PPM data warehouse for larger organizations that are looking to scale project management data and do data integration, pull additional custom data out, things like that. And finally, we do offer an e-learning platform so your teams can learn more about the tools on their own time, working through scheduled training or on-demand training whenever they need it. If you'd like information about any of these components, please email us at info@progility.com. It's also available on our website. So just wrapping up, we wanted to get into some good practices. If you're thinking about going down this road, or maybe you've made a leap into project, but you're not sure where to take it to the next level, there's really six keys to success we find. The first one on the top left is really understanding your requirements. What does the business need, and documenting those requirements? Do you need to do better project scheduling? Is this all about resource planning? Is collaboration the key pain point? Do you really need to do demand management, or is it portfolio management? What are those business requirements? That should drive your tool selection, how you implement the tool, and how the tool gets trained on and how it gets supported. That is number one as important as anything. You want to understand who the key stakeholders are in this overall life cycle and get them involved early in what you're trying to accomplish. Don't be the lone wolf out there using your own tool. Go and build a good strategy within your group or department. Get executive buy-in and show them the value it can provide, and the tool can really be brought in and developed in the right way. Plus, it'll give you the resources to be successful. You're not swiping a credit card and using a tech. You're deploying something that's useful for the enterprise and you. You want to look at what the current technology that's available is today. Microsoft has multiple offerings in the Office 365 suite around Project, as we showed you today. What's the right technology for the job? It might be multiple PM tools. Most organizations have multiple PM tools, and I think the reality of the world going forward is we're going to be using different tools because we have different audiences with different skill sets. The business or casual project manager has a different need than someone in an enterprise PMO trying to do portfolio management and large-scale program management. There's different tools for the job. Pick the right tools and deploy those successfully. There's not one tool that solves every problem. Always look in the bottom left at your project management process. Where are you from a maturity perspective? What are your capabilities? Everybody wants to run or fly, but the reality is you may be in a stage where you really need to crawl and walk first. Get to crawl and walk, then grow into run and fly, and build that into your plan as you work with your stakeholders. Remember that Agile projects are projects too. They need to be considered in light of the entire portfolio. They have some kind of a schedule. You're applying resources, you're spending money on them, and you want to get some kind of return on investment. And thinking of them, managing them elsewhere, not in a project management tool, is often a mistake because you only get a partial picture of things. You can only make a partial decision. Understand what data goes in an Agile system like DevOps versus goes in a PPM system, and use that. And don't overburden your end users, but understand you do need to have a full list of all your projects in one place. Where are you going to do that? How are you going to do it? And finally, piloting. Piloting is probably the most important key to success that we find, along with stakeholder involvement and business requirements. Pilot the solution with a small group of users, gain their feedback, then slowly roll that out to other groups over time, making sure it's a good fit for those groups. If you just go big bang and you try to roll a tool out, a lot of times it will fail and you'll kind of wonder why. So piloting gives you different ways to measure success in an incremental way. The benefits of going down this road and doing a well-planned approach for your project management environment: time savings. It'll save you a lot of time and not having to go back and rework things. Spend the 30 to 60 days to really do the right planning up front to get a lot more value out of it versus just dropping a tool in and seeing what users want. It'll save you money. Time is money in our world, right? In the large enterprise world, the more time we spend on things that are non-value added, the more it's going to cost the organization, and we're going to end up redoing things, bringing consultants in, fixing problems versus just doing it right from the start. You can lead to advanced productivity improvements. If you get everybody using the same platform or multiple tools in a common platform, you have better reporting. People become more productive. They're using the same tools. They know what to expect, and management knows what to expect from a data perspective. They can trust the data. And when something says it's red, it's late, it really means it's red, it's late. The people aren't subjectively selecting this. It's coming off of information that's commonly understood and everybody's trained against. So having really trustworthy data to rely on to make portfolio level decisions. It also gives you the ability to scale this, to go from, hey, I'm managing one or a group of projects, to now I'm starting to think about a portfolio. And how do I manage a portfolio? How do I start doing investment management at the beginning of the year that's not on a whiteboard or a spreadsheet? Or how do I do program management? I've got a really large transformation program. We need a better way to organize that and multiple programs across the organization. It allows you to have a scalable solution that goes across your organization. And it also sets you up for success as you move towards what we call SPM. SPM is strategic portfolio management. It's top-down planning to support what you're going to be doing from a bottom level up. What are the right investments to make? So by planning properly and doing this incrementally, you can have a bottoms-up approach that influences what you do at the top level. So today we really wanted to walk you through some good examples, hopefully, of how Teams, Project, Power BI can be leveraged to do better project portfolio management. At this point, we're going to open the floor to any questions. So Annie, we're going to see if anybody's put any questions in the Q&A manager here. We can take those now.
All right, Rob, it looks like we have a question from Randy. After the event, how are we going to claim for the PDUS? Thanks.
Yep, so Randy, you can self-register for PDUs through PMI. You just need to have the name of the event and the date and who the provider was, and you can self-register for PDUs.
Here's another question. Are you able to download a completed project plan for a Microsoft project into Project for the Web?
Yeah, so if you have a project in an MPP format from Project Desktop, you can go in and you can actually import project into Project for the Web. If you go to the Project for the Web landing page on Project Home, click on New Project, and it will actually select Import. You can import from an MPP file, and it'll pull it into Project for the Web.
From Chad, based on the reports and project access, will the RBS still be utilized to control security?
Good question, Chad. So it definitely can. The RBS can